This is 1.2 Standards of Measurements Part 2. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about time, temperature, and scientific notation. Okay, so to start, time, this is just an interval between two events. So it can be measured in many different ways. The main scientific unit that we're going to be seeing is going to be seconds. Okay, but we know just from our daily lives that time can be measured in other time intervals as well, such as minutes, hours, milliseconds, years, things like that. Okay, so I have some basic conversions for you, which will be helpful. Some of these you should probably already know, but it's just nice to have them in your notes just to refer back to in case you need it. Okay, temperature. This is the motion of molecules. We're going to get more into temperature once we get further along in our chapters, but it's just something to note that it is just the motion of molecules that's going to interpret into a temperature. Okay, so the units for these are either in Kelvin, which is used with a K to represent Kelvin, or degrees Celsius, okay? And we're going to be using a thermometer in order to measure these. Now, an interesting thing, I don't know if you've heard of Kelvin before, but Kelvin, the temperature units for Kelvin, they're actually based on absolute zero. So absolute zero, it's kind of a theoretical type measurement because it's never been observed before. But basically, absolute zero is where the molecules or atoms in the object completely stop. Okay, so that's absolute zero. Scientists have been able to get it really, really close to 0 Kelvin, but we've never actually observed it in science. Okay, degrees Celsius is actually based on the freezing and boiling point of water, and so it has a pretty standard baseline. So basically 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of water, and 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water. I'm going to come back and do the practice problems of converting between Celsius, Kelvin, and Fahrenheit, and I'm going to be using a different app in order to kind of work through those problems. Okay. So we're going to start with the practice problem number 1, which is 47 Kelvin equals how many Celsius? Okay, so we're starting with Kelvin. Okay, and we're going to Celsius, so this is the equation we're going to use. Okay, so we have the temperature in Celsius equals the temperature in Kelvin, which is 47 minus 273.15. Okay, so you would take 47 minus 273.15 in your calculator, and you should get negative 226.15. For the next problem, we have, let me erase this as well. For the next problem, we have 391 degrees Celsius equals how many Kelvin? Okay, so we are starting with Celsius and we're going to Kelvin. Okay, so that's the equation we're going to be using. So we have the temperature in Kelvin equals temperature in Celsius, which is 391 plus 273.15. So when we put that in the calculator, the answer you should get is 664.15. For the next one, we have 344 Kelvin. So we're starting with Kelvin, and we're going to Fahrenheit. So this is the equation we'll use. So TF, it's the temperature of Fahrenheit, equals 1.8 times the Kelvin temperature, which is negative 25 minus 273.15 plus 32. Okay, So first, you're going to want to make sure in your calculator to subtract these two numbers, so negative 25 minus 273.15, then times it by the 1.8, and then add the 32. Okay, so whenever you do it in those particular steps, you should get 159.53 degrees Fahrenheit. For the next one, we're starting out with negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're starting with Fahrenheit. And we're going to Kelvin. So this is the equation we're going to use. So plugging in the information, our temperature of Kelvin is going to be equal to the temperature of Fahrenheit, which is negative 25, minus 32 divided by 1.8, and then we're going to add 273.15 to that number. Okay, so start off by subtracting the top two, so negative 25 minus 32, divide that number by 1.8, and then you're going to add the 273.15, and the answer you should get is 241.48. On to the next one. We have 5 degrees Celsius, and we're going to Fahrenheit. Okay, so plugging it in, the temperature in Fahrenheit is equal to 1.8 times the temperature of Celsius, which is 5, and then add 32. So you're going to do whatever's in the parentheses first. So first, multiply these two numbers together, so 1.8 times 5, and then you're going to add the 32, and the answer you should get is 41. And then the last one, negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. So we're starting with Fahrenheit, we're going to Celsius. So let's plug in the numbers. We have the temperature in Celsius equals the Fahrenheit temperature minus 32 all over 1.8. So subtract the two numbers on top, divide by 1.8, and you should get negative 1.67.